G'day, ladies and gents, and welcome back to War Thunder. Today, we're going to have a look at a jet that's sort of gone under the radar a little bit. It hasn't at the same time, because I do see a few people flying it out now, but back in the day, it sort of wasn't terribly popular. This is the F9F8 Cougar, and ever since it was given some sidewinders, people have been considering it a little bit more. The plane used to be 9.0, and an 8.3 battle rating reduction, or reduction to 8.3 rather, has been of some benefit to it. It's pretty much been the saving grace of the plane. It's where it should be. It's slightly better than the Panthers, being a little bit faster, carrying sidewinders. It rolls a little bit better, and it seems to do a couple of weird things. It has better energy retention, that's for sure. It's one of those planes that just, I don't know, it feels better to me. It's just like a better Panther. And you can tell when you fly it, when you get some upgrades for it, it's very, very nice. Stock, it's a little bit painful, but you sort of learn to work around that. So for example, while I'm rushing, you use this strategy essentially because the Panther and all jets without an afterburner, and even jets with an afterburner, basically have their highest indicated airspeed at sea level. Basically, at sea level is where you get your best performance. And now, obviously, you might be saying, well, on the stat card, actually, it says 1,700 kilometers per hour for the T2 at 10,000 meters. But if you look at it, it's in your TAS, or essentially your ground speed, and that's a completely different variable. Essentially, what you want is the highest speed at which you can maneuver. And for me, using indicated airspeed, which is the airflow going over the wings, essentially, it helps me figure out what speed I'm going to rip at, what speed I'm going to stall at, and what speed I'm going to be able to turn best at. And they're the values that I need for each plane. And indicated airspeed gives me those values. True airspeed, or ground speed in this case, because wind isn't modeled in War Thunder, is not a good indicator for what I want to do. And when you're looking at jets, essentially what you're looking at is your top speed, your turn rate, and your stall. And that's all you need. And in jets, flying at sea level is the best way to maximize that. Obviously, you don't always want to sit on the deck 100% of the time. Sometimes you might want to grab some separation. And this is where you start to climb. Climbing only comes into effect, I suppose, when you need separation. It gives you a couple of kilometers to work with when it comes to fighting other planes. You can do this by heading off to the side. You can do this by going up or down, whichever way you want, essentially allowing you just to not have to engage someone. So, for example, this F-84 has gained some separation from me to the right of me. And what he's doing is he's continuing his speed, he's keeping his speed up, and the F2H Banshee there has pulled off. Now, the F2H loses a lot of energy in that turn, and in jets, it is all about energy. A slow jet is a dead jet, and that's why you never want to be slow. Even if you are a slow-flying jet, like a Vampire or a Venom, you always try and play for speed, and if you can't play for speed, well, then you have your turning. But it's almost like your speed is equivalent to your altitude in props. It's as valuable. And in jets, it sort of just doesn't work that way, because you can pretty much accelerate to your top speed very, very quickly in jets. But when you get to props, it takes forever to get up to a high speed. Now, another thing that you can do is you can rush with jets, and you can catch the climbers off guard. And that's exactly what I did to that F-84. I came out of nowhere, pushed the quick head on, got out of there, and got a nice easy kill. And then what I do is I zoom up, store that energy into altitude or potential energy, and then I continue on my merry way looking for someone whilst everyone is flying away from me, although they're in the opposite direction. So I'm the one with the gun, with my cannons basically, pointing towards them, and they're the ones with their engine turned towards me. And that's where I want to be, because I will eventually catch them, and I'll eventually shoot them down. And this is exactly what happens almost every time I rush. The only exception is when I'm in something that's slower, say for example an F100D and a T2 does a 180 for me. That's the only exception. And in that case, you work as a team and you learn to maybe gather a couple of mates, you all rush together, and your friend takes the T2 kill, and you bait for the T2. You bait the T2 into a turn or into a stall or something like that, whatever's suitable at the time. Now, the Cougar is reasonably good at doing that, especially in a down tier, being one of the faster planes. It just sort of, it's able to catch planes off guard, and like I said, it's got fairly good energy retention. You can see I'm putting it against this MD 450, and I'm just putting myself into a spiral climb because he's been ground pounding. Even though that plane turns reasonably well, it's almost like a hybrid between a meteor and a vampire. I'm able to very, very easily force him to stall, and needless to say, it's a very, very easy kill. Now, I have got a little problem, and one of the things that I've done by rushing is I've isolated myself and a couple of teammates. So my teammates right now are in a position where they're at a numbers disadvantage. And what you can see here, there's an F2H Banshee who's sort of going up. I feel like this is the priority target because if I can get him low on energy, then that means that's another plane out of the way. I fire some shots, I get a couple of hits, nothing too major, and then the very last bullet lands in a crit. Have a look at the kill feed while you're at it, and see how many planes crashed. That instantly turned the match around. 2 of the enemy planes crashed, one of the friendlies shot down one, and I shot down the other. And so we turned a 2v4 into a victory very, very quickly, just because of a crappy mistake by the enemy. But, things like that happen. And one of the things, I would have prepared myself for in this case is a speed dogfight or an energy dogfight. Essentially where I would have gone vertical or into a slight vertical, and that would have forced the planes who wanted to kill me to actually do a full 180. And then I'd just go into the vertical again and come back down on them with all the energy that I have over them. Jets is a game of energy. Whoever can keep the most energy wins, because a slow jet is a dead jet. That is literally rule number 1 of jets. Slow jet is a dead jet. Never turn around for an enemy if it's going to kill all your speed. Do it slowly so that you don't lose your speed. The maps are smaller, so maybe not Afghanistan, but a map like Korea, for example, Ruhr, El Alamein, you have map borders, and it'll force them to do something in the realm of turning. And that's what you want to do. You want to force them to lose energy somehow. And one of the things that the Cougar is equipped with to get people to lose energy are those AIM-9Bs. But the AIM-9Bs have a slight ace up their sleeve, being fantastic bomber hunters. Maybe not necessarily bombers like the Tu-4 or the B-29, because the heat signature from the engines isn't really that strong. It's only a piston engine giving off heat. The heat signature only registers for the AIM-9Bs at about a range of 1 kilometer, something around that. But for jets, my God, this is one of the best mechanisms for shooting down jet bombers climbing to space that I've ever seen in my whole life. Essentially what happens is the jet bomber climbs to space, and the higher you get, the closer you are to your stall speed. And as a jet, the closer you are to your stall speed means the less air that's going over the controls. And obviously, there's a certain point, especially planes that don't have all flying tails or essentially small control surfaces, is up to a point they're very, very good at turning, and then they start to lock up as they get to high speeds. So at very, very low speeds and at very, very high speeds, you have a plane that essentially can't turn, or it loses all of its advantages. The Canberra, for example, he's really, really good at turning sub 150, but an AIM-9B is traveling at, I think, twice the speed of sound, something like that. And so, you're going to get a very, very quick maneuvering kill. Like, the Canberra isn't going to be able to shift that weight out of the way of the missile. And then at very, very high speeds, the Canberra locks up. And so does the IL-28, and so does the Vautour. you have at your disposal one of, if not the best mechanism for any jet at this battle rating to take down enemy bombers. Maybe you could be slightly crazy like Commandant France and use the rockets on the Me-262A1. Maybe you could be absolutely like an absolute mad lad and use them on the FFARs on the G91 or something like that. But the AIM-9Bs are easily the best mechanism to do this. And I'll demonstrate here with this particular B-57, who I encountered a few matches ago, found him at 13,000 meters, and we lost the match because of it. So, I'm extra keen to get rid of this guy. I hate space climbing bombers. I've made a video on this before, and I think I've said it twice. I honestly can't respect anyone that wants to prolong everyone else's game experience just so that they can avoid, say, a 30k repair cost. If you're that worried about your repair cost, find a quiet spot on the map, spiral dive, go to your airfield, land, and J out. That's honestly your best bet. Otherwise, I can't bring myself to have respect for people that do that. Now, as you can see, the B-57 is the B-57B, and he's armed with a lot of cannons. And so I don't want to go head-on. I just fire my missile, and he can't do anything because he's just too damn slow. Either that or he's too damn fast. At that altitude, you can see he's reaching an airspeed where he doesn't have the air running over his control surfaces to pull hard enough. And that is where the AIM-9Bs shine. The Cougar over time has progressively gotten better and better. First it got a down tier to 8.3. Now it's gotten the AIM-9Bs. It is easily one of the most favorable jets at this battle rating simply because it's versatile. It's fun to play. It takes some skill to use this thing. And I do mean that sincerely. In an up tier, you will struggle. You're more of a support jet. I would play fast. I would play to energy. I would gain some separation from your enemies as soon as possible. Side rush, for example. That's a fairly good strategy that I use to some success. You essentially just side rush and look for targets that are, I guess, opportunity targets or something that is low on energy, and you just hone in on that. You learn to use the guns better, and then eventually when you get more and more upgrades, you can start to dogfight people, especially when you get those boosters. Those booster upgrades are crucial. That's one of the really, really important things that you need, I would say, are the boosters. And you can see I'm on 4 kills. I've managed to clean up a couple of guys that weren't paying attention. I managed to clean up a couple of bombers. And this is roughly the kind of match that you'll have. It is, spoilers, going to be an ace. But the kind of matches that you'll have are either, your team is full of bombers or your team sort of gets swept off their feet. And it's literally no way or the other. Either that or your team clubs. But, if you bring a couple of people with you, if you challenge yourself a little bit, try and play properly, you can make this thing work really, really well. I wouldn't turn with anything with a straight wing, in all honesty. Anything with a swept wing you could probably bargain with, but I'd use those flaps as well. You only have landing flaps, and so it's a bit difficult, but if you use them in conjunction with your air brake and your M9Bs, keep your speed up, keep your energy up, use your turns efficiently, you can really make it work, and it's a very, very fun jet to play. By the way, the skin is a marketplace skin, for those of you who are wondering. Anyway, ladies and gents, that should do it for today. Hope you enjoyed. Take care, and I'll catch you next time.